It is the Matt Barrie Show, presented by Allstate. Week 11 of college football season is in the books. I am Matt Barrie. I appreciate everyone joining us each and every Sunday morning to break down what was an entertaining Saturday in college football. So many things to get to this morning. Paul Finebaum will join us like he always does. Had a couple of upsets in the ACC, which is throwing that league into absolute chaos. Kind of same as it ever was in the SEC. And who'd have thought that the Big Ten of all leagues would have been the most entertaining on a week 11 with a slate. I'd give the slate about a 7 out of 10. I'd give the action about a 8.5 out of 10 with all the upsets and all of the close games that we had, especially in the Big Ten. We'll get to all of that in a minute. But first, I want to start with our Good Hands play presented by Allstate. And it was an exchange in this game between Vanderbilt and Auburn where Cam Coleman, the star receiver, had to come up huge. This was the first to give Auburn 36 points. They were down 38-36. Then Coleman had to one-up himself for the 2-point conversion, and he did. That ended up tying the game at 38 all. Coleman had a huge day for Auburn, 10 catches, 143 yards, and the touchdown, and an offense that Auburn found the first week without Hugh Freeze. DJ Durkin was the interim coach, but Vanderbilt would prevail in overtime, which keeps the Commodores in an unlikely position because of everything that happened below them, or above them rather, in the standings in the college football playoff standings. So there's so much to get to today, as we do every Sunday. Let's bring in Paul Finebaum to break down all the action. Paul, good morning. Hello. I think for the first time in a month, I'm almost positive we're not going to be done recording this at 10 a.m. or so on Sunday, and a coach is going to be fired. I think we're safe this week.
Yeah, we've had 4 weeks like we've never had before, but I think we're good today. I can't imagine anyone getting fired, and if they do, we really don't care.
Because look, I'd say the only one, well, I'm not going to start naming names of coaches that could be fired. We're going to celebrate a day of not having any firings. I do want to start off with the nightcap in the SEC between Alabama and LSU. It was ugly at first. It was 3-3. There really wasn't anything great to write home about. But to me, the story, and this happened in a couple of games, and we'll get to the other one in a minute, but the story in this one, at least for me, was LSU benching Garrett Nussmeier to go for the transfer Van Buren from Mississippi State. I don't know what's going to happen moving forward. I'm sure it was discussed about ad nauseum in a post game, but Paul, to bench Nuss in this type of game because he hasn't really done anything, I thought that was the headline in this one.
Yeah, by the way, we're being blacked out in Tallahassee, so forget what we just said about coaches perhaps being fired this morning. But I just think back 11 weeks ago, and we were sitting here talking about Nussmeier maybe being the number 1 draft pick, the Heisman Trophy favorite after LSU beat Clemson, and what a journey he has been on. Of all the years that preseason predictions mattered less, this was the one. The fact that Arch Manning is still starting and Nussmeier is not. But it was just a weird game. I was in Birmingham all week, Matt, and I mean, you could walk down the street and talk college football and nobody brought this up. And the reason I say that's so significant is that this has been the de facto game of the year, really, since 2007 when Nick Saban arrived at Alabama and would start playing his old school. And in terms of LSU, I mean, they really don't have a path forward. Their season has crashed and burned. It's now all about who the governor decides will be the next coach.
Yeah, and it is like, again, this used to be the one you would circle. Remember the win Brian Kelly got year 1 with Jaden Daniels? He went for 2 late. I think it was Mason Taylor that caught it. And that was kind of, we thought, oh, here we go. Here comes LSU, Alabama. It's back. And I believe Alabama's won 13 of the last 15 against LSU. This thing has just been one-sided. And it's just a game that we always used to look forward to because of the magnitude of what it meant. And now it's just kind of like, okay.
Matt, that was one of the stories of yesterday, though, with one exception. Well, a couple of exceptions, but I can't. We were doing a show yesterday from Mississippi State, and I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure you do it in studio as well, where you go, and Florida has an interim coach, and Auburn has an interim coach, and LSU. I mean, it was just, in some places it really did help. And I know we'll get to those games later, but in LSU it helped a little bit. But what the juice, whatever juice was on the LSU side, it was missing on the Alabama side. I'm not really sure there's an explanation. They have Oklahoma next week, which is a big revenge game. They still have to go to Auburn. I think Alabama knew that they could play a B game, B minus. It wouldn't matter. They were still going to win. And one thing that does concern me a little bit about Alabama, though, is that they just can't seem to find a running game.
Right.
And they will need that in the playoffs, Matt. So therefore, I think some people are less than optimistic Alabama is going to go far.
Yeah, the SEC conversation, it's pretty simple this morning. Georgia, Mississippi State, where you were, was a blowout. That never manifested itself in a game where people thought maybe Mississippi State, because they've kind of been a little ornery this year with some of these teams. That never did anything. Mississippi State handled Georgia, or Georgia handled Mississippi State the way that they should have. And then the other game, Texas A&M, Missouri. Missouri's on their third string quarterback. I know they like the true freshman, but it's not his time, and it's not Missouri's time. And so really in that league, Paul, it was chalk. There wasn't anything to write home about. And the three teams that we thought were going to get wins coming into Saturday got the wins that they needed to, and everyone kind of survived the day.
Yeah, probably the brightest spot of the day, though, was Georgia, Matt. For the first time, they just got off to a fast start. They have not done that. And I think State even jumped out to a 7-0 lead. And then here comes the Dogs, playing a lot better and a lot more consistent. And it sets up as somewhat average as the weekend was last week or this past weekend. Yeah. Next week is just absolutely delightful when you have back-to-back games, Oklahoma and Alabama, and then Texas at Georgia. We've seen a couple of times this year when we've had this when we had I think a Georgia Ole Miss game and Alabama Tennessee game back-to-back. But this is going to really be a significant weekend, a desperate weekend for Texas as well as Oklahoma.
Hey, and you look now, because you sit there and the first college football playoff rankings came out on Tuesday, and everyone wanted to scream and yell and this, that. And look, they could have ranked 1, 2, 3, Ohio State, Indiana, A&M. They could have ranked those in any order they wanted to. At this point, they're going to get a first round bye. It doesn't matter unless there's any colossal trip up. But when you look down the rankings, and that's where the story starts to come in, because you just mentioned a couple teams. Texas sits at 11. Oklahoma sits at 12. The schedules that those two have left, you would think, unless it's just a shocking development like Texas and Georgia. I mean, Paul, you would think Georgia would win that game. That gives Texas 3 losses. Oklahoma's already got 2. And then there's going to be Vanderbilt sitting there at 16, who really has a look to go 10-2 on the year if they get past Tennessee. This thing's going to go wild, Paul, because I don't know that there's anything right now towards the bottom of the standings, especially with what we saw in the ACC yesterday. We'll get to that in a minute with Virginia going down and Louisville going down. There are teams that maybe would have been cast off after the first rankings that are down in the mid-teens that now have a realistic shot at playing their way back up the leaderboard.
Yeah, there are two storylines that you just mentioned. Texas is one. Let's say Texas loses at Georgia. Then they find the final game of the season is at home against what will likely be an A&M, an undefeated Texas A&M team. So should they get that win and finish 9-3, I think you're going to have a serious argument that they have a spot in there. And this committee, and I'll save all the aggravation for later. Who knows what they'll be interested in the final weekend, but you'll have to factor in that Ohio State game, and that could give them a kick. And how about Vanderbilt? Are they going to leave Vanderbilt out at 10-2? Now they haven't gotten to 10-2 yet because their final game of the year will be at Tennessee.
Correct, and
that would be a significant victory, even though it would likely be over a 9-3 Tennessee team. It would count for something. So a 10-2, 9-3. Vandy would end up 10-2 in that circumstance. I mean, you could really have some wild debates about that.
Yeah, because they have Kentucky and Tennessee remaining. They're 8-2. Kentucky, they're giving teams fights. They found a little end of season punch. But Vanderbilt, you would think it's going to come down to that Tennessee game. And look, it's only a matter of time. And we've said this, we talked about it in studio again on College Football Final, that a 9-3 team at some point is going to get in. If this is the year, that happens, because when you just look at it, when you look at the way it's going to shake out, like the ACC, the highest ranked ACC team coming into this week was Virginia at 14. Well, they just lost. Okay, so they lost. I know that there's going to be an ACC representative because of the conference champion, but they lost. They were the highest ranked team. Louisville was the next ranked, the highest ranked ACC team. They lost. And then here comes Georgia Tech. They were on a bye, and then Miami does what they should have done against Syracuse. And so when you start looking at all this in the final 3 weeks of the season, Paul, it's going to be absolute chaos because you have to find 12 teams. You know, we were doing this exercise yesterday. If you look at the top 12, again, Texas is 11, Oklahoma's 12, right? Something's going to drop out of there because it has to. An ACC team was not in the top 12. One is going to be there. So that knocks one of those teams out. And then the group of 5 representative, that took a hit on Friday when Tulane beat Memphis. None of them are ranked in the first rankings. Well, there's going to be a spot there. So just based on that and this conversation, Texas and Oklahoma are out for the ACC and the group of 5 representative. And then you've got stuff all above that to where this committee, and that's why I'm so against expansion. We're going to have a hard time slotting 12 teams this year. What makes you think 14 or 16 teams is any better?
Having said that, Friday night, man, I sat in Starkville with Mark Keenum, the president of Mississippi State, who's also the chairman of the CFP Board of Management. And he made news, even though I don't know whether he was intending to or not. He said he doesn't think expansion will happen this year, but the SEC is clearly in favor of 16 and no automatic qualifier. So it feels like we are maybe a year away from that being implemented. And you're, the problem with that, Matt, and I know we don't need to spend any more time on it than this, is it almost rules the conference championships games, who are already on life support, even more irrelevant.
Yeah, we've been saying this for weeks now. If I'm Ole Miss, I love where I'm at. If I'm Ole Miss, I'm going to likely go 11-1 and miss the conference championship, barring any upset. Like, how great is that? I mean, if you're one of these teams, Oregon's another example, who skated by Iowa in the cold, wet weather yesterday. In all likelihood, because of the way Ohio State's playing, and then we'll get to Indiana in a second, but they're one of those teams that's like, hey, you know what? I'm good. I'll do my 11-1, and I'll let Ohio State and Indiana play championship weekend. I'll sit, I'll get healthy, and I'll prepare for the playoff.
Yeah, no, because I mean, if you're Oregon, you don't really want to play Ohio State. Ole Miss could probably live without playing A&M or Alabama, and it's just so weird. And I'll leave it to the commissioners because they are, of course, the smartest people in the room every week. But these conference games, I mean, last year it was fun watching Texas and Georgia play because Texas had never been there. The game meant very little.
Right.
This year, let's say you have 11-1 Alabama versus 12-0 Texas A&M. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's at stake, but how much is really at stake?
Yeah, and it goes to, again, we you don't want to just eliminate something like the conference championship games, but at some point, the schools are going to weigh in, and they're going to keep telling themselves, no, this is what we play for. We play for an SEC championship. That was good a decade ago. Now, I would bet if you got Lane Kiffin in a room and you just BSing with him, or hell, any of these coaches, and said, hey, would you rather have championship weekend off knowing you're in the playoff? 10 out of 10 are going to say yes. And so you're right. Every year we have this little bit of a hurdle of something in this sport that we think we fixed. And I think conference championships are next. I get it. There's money. It's the right to say, call yourself a conference champion. I'll take it one step further, Paul. What about in a couple of weeks, if this goes chalk, and I don't know why we've seen anything this year that would make us think that anything in college football is going to go chalk, but what if teams start doing the opt-out, not the opt-out, but hey, we're going to rest our starting quarterback. We're going to rest Ty Simpson because he's really important for the national championship run. I mean, hell, look at Ohio State last year. They lose to Michigan, all hell breaks loose, everyone, and then they just go on our run and we'll go and win the national championship. At some point, coaches are going to get smart and say, you know, I'm going to rest this guy, and this guy.
But and I'll say something. I was talking to a Mississippi State fan the other day, Matt, and the person said it's really sad. The season's almost over, and I'm like going, no, it's not. I mean, we're at week 11. I think we get 18 weeks of this, don't we? If you
We
go
do.
all the way to the end, and I just remember, and I know you do. Last year, by the end of the season, I mean, that December through January run was without a doubt the most exhausting college football thing I had experienced. Now, by the way, I'm doing nothing more than watching it. Can't imagine playing. So yeah, what you said is 100% correct, and it would be very tricky how they do it. But just ask Kirby Smart what he thinks of the conference championship game, considering he lost his starting quarterback last year in the conference championship game, and like him or not, it cost him any shot at winning the Sugar Bowl.
And I would bet again, if he has to reevaluate that, the day and age of winning the SEC championship is the most important thing on our schedule. The game's evolved. I mean, it just has. The schedule, the priorities, the expansion of the college football playoff, the NIL, the transfer portal. Now you're playing for one thing. And I get that sacrilegious in some parts of the country, but it's true. You're playing for one thing now, to get a playoff spot and then go through the bracket. And when you have an incident like you had last year with Carson Beck going out, you're going to reevaluate those things. Now, I know the commissioners aren't going to want to hear that, but that's just where we are. If you wanted to, Paul, and like you and I do, we kind of go off on these tangents. I mean, why not get rid of conference championship weekend, start the playoffs then, or get rid of conference championship weekend, get everybody a bye to get ready and get rested and ready, and then go for it. I mean, at some point, we're in a day and age now where something's going to have to give, right?
Well, I think that we mentioned it here about a year ago where we talked about the Army-Navy weekend, and then every veteran in America came after us. And we weren't suggesting it's any less important. It was just you could sandwich games around that. But I'll leave that for, especially on Veterans Day weekend. We think it's a great game. But the point is, it's not just a football game, these conference championship weekends. It's a three-day long event. I mean, the teams probably get there on Thursday afternoon or Thursday night. You have press conferences and events that are part and parcel to the game. It's not, you just don't sneak into town and sneak out. There are people everywhere.
Yeah. And yeah, right. And again, I mean, we're this is what we do, but then you're added cost for fans, travel. Like at some point, something's going to have to run out. And today's not the day to solve that problem, but at some point, you can bet this will be discussed. Two things that stood out off the big national radar. I think Texas Tech asserted itself as a team you probably don't want to play. I think the defense with Jacob Rodriguez is remarkable. They have a running back that's going to knock a game out of you. They got Baron Morton, who's healthy now. So Texas Tech is someone that people are going to have to start messing around with. And the other one for me, every year, no matter what, a team that's on a path to a championship has to mess with destiny and make a play in a drive that saves their season. I can't remember the last time that I saw a drive like Indiana put together against Penn State. No timeouts, 80-plus yards, the catches they had to make to go on and win in what was a classic.
Yeah, and when you think about how many people were rooting against Indiana in that game, it was a testament to what Cignetti and that group has accomplished. I was watching the game with a bunch of fans in a sports bar, and in the South, of course, and you would have thought Alabama had just lost the national championship when Mendoza completed that pass. It was classic, and yeah, I'm well aware of what I've said about Indiana. And we can debate whether they're the best team or the second best or the third best, but they are. That was the most impressive drive of the season. You know, I'm not ready to declare a Heisman winner on November 9th, but we certainly have a favorite after that.
You certainly had that moment, that Heisman moment that the voters want to put together, that ESPN wants to put together with the montage and everything in between. And so you have to find a way to win. And we were sitting there in studio saying, how ironic would it be if they fired James Franklin and the interim does exactly what James Franklin couldn't do, which was win a top 5 game. Ended up not happening. So Indiana, and what they were able to do on the road with no timeouts. That one's going to live for a while in Indiana football history. Back-to-back 10-win seasons for a team that had never had one before, and they both come in the first 2 years of Curt Cignetti is a great story. Now, look, we're getting down to the end of the regular season where you would think things would start churning. Let's get into the coaching stuff for a minute. Anything bubble up in your world or your gossip world of what's going on at Florida, LSU, Arkansas, and now Auburn in terms of vacancies?
The one of those four has a betting favorite, whether that means anything or not. And the betting favorite at Auburn is John Sumrall, the Tulane coach who held on Friday night. And it's not the hire that wows the America, but if that ends up being the case, and Matt, we're speculating, I think almost every Auburn fan that I've talked to would be thrilled. That job is so much better than I think it's being given credit for. As far as Florida, most people think if Kiffin makes a move, he would look more toward Florida. There's no question the governor did damage to LSU. I don't think that's an understatement. Arkansas is just who is truly left. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I heard last week that James Franklin had a job and it turned out not to be true.
Yeah, Franklin's name keeps getting circulated around the country with some of these openings. But I think we're at the point now, look, we expect there's going to be a few more jobs that come open, and that's just the way this is going to be. And I was talking to an agent when I was at my Thursday night game, and we were just talking about how crazy everything is. You know what's funny about this? And it's not going to be funny to them. When you look at all the dots being connected and all these vacancies that are open and the jockeying for who's the best job, I agree. I think Sumrall's a home run at Auburn. He's from Alabama. He grew up in the state. He's going to have to bring an offense with him, defensive-minded head coach, a former linebacker at Kentucky. So that's just his side of the ball. So they're going to have to do something to keep the fans engaged in an offense that you need, that somehow scored 38 points last night against Vanderbilt and couldn't score more than 3 against Kentucky. That's for another show. But you know who's going to be interestingly left out and almost what the hell are we going to do? And they were the first to do it. Penn State. When you look at these jobs and these names, and then you start looking around, you're like, guys, Penn State's right there. That is a really good job in a league that is easier to get through than the SEC. I mean, are they going to pull a rabbit out of a hat? Are they going to get the guy that we never even thought of? But if I'm a head coach and I'm looking at the resources and the winnability of the league, how many games do you have to get through in the Big Ten? Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, I mean, maybe Iowa. What are you getting through, Paul? 4 or 5 games max?
Yeah, and listen, it's a great job, and it just doesn't seem like it. There's another name, Matt. Yeah, almost everybody has been eliminated from that job, and I'm sure whoever that person is who thinks that he might be the next Penn State coach probably was pretty happy yesterday to see Indiana pull that game out. It makes the job a lot easier than have to go in there after the interim did something that Franklin didn't. One other thing, DJ Durkin was a couple of seconds away from moving into the favorites role at Auburn. He's not out of it yet, but he gained a little bit of traction. Mm-hmm. But when you don't win, it doesn't help. He still got Alabama. One other name, Matt, and I've been critical of this guy, but he's done a really good job this year of keeping his program together, and that's Lincoln Riley. And I'm not just saying this to say it, but I keep hearing whispers that he could be in play, and if he is, he could. It's good for him that his name's back in the picture again. Don't know if he would leave USC, but he still is one of those names that you can introduce at a press conference, and people go, "Oh wow, never thought of Lincoln Riley." You know,
it's funny you bring up Lincoln because I think he and USC are starting to realize how easy it is to be forgotten. I mean, USC, they're. Say what you want. They're in play. I mean, they're in play in this thing, but they're just not talked about. They're just forgotten out on the West Coast. And I think that's because they led the charge to do one of the dumbest things we've seen in a long time, which was kill the Pac-12. They don't belong in the Big Ten. That reads that the whole thing makes zero sense, and they're paying for it now because no one gives a damn about USC.
No, and it's, I'm not going to give you the cliche that the next guy sitting next to you, college football is so much better when USC. It doesn't really matter to me if USC ever plays another football game, Matt. The bottom line is that they are forgotten about, and I'm sure Lincoln Riley is getting that memo, and he's done a pretty good job this year. And where is he going to go for attention in a town that just celebrated a World Series and is focused in on the Lakers right now? I mean, he just doesn't really matter. And the thing is, and you've been there enough time, when USC is at the top of the heap, they do matter in LA, but they don't matter right now.
They do, but then it goes to the thing. Growing up as a Pac-12 guy, you can see the Arizona State's helmet somewhere back there. When you look at the way that conference was set up, right? It made it such good West Coast. You've got that whole corridor of the country where those games mattered. USC, Oregon mattered in the Pac-12. That's not a Big Ten game. You're not going to turn anyone on with USC, Nebraska, USC, Northwestern. The damage was done to itself when you decided that was a good move to go to the Big Ten. Now there's no connectivity with anything out there. And LA people, as you said, they're a fickle group. It's like, oh, I've got a World Series champion in the Dodgers. I've got the Chargers in town. I've got the Rams in town who are really good. I've got the Lakers. What is Northwestern USC going to do for my palate? It does nothing. And so now you're starting to see that happen where it's like, oh, okay, well, we've got USC Rutgers. That's going to really get, like they did it to themselves.
No, they did. I mean, I was watching Sports Center Saturday morning, and somebody said, USC won a big game Friday night. And I'm like, who'd they play? It's like, no, they didn't. But they won, and that's all that matters right now as you kind of hang around. But I just think Lincoln is an interesting cat where he was so used to being in the spotlight. Then he took the bullets, and now he's recovered again. And I don't know. I would be telling my agent if I was Lincoln, find me a good job, get me out of here. This is not going to. I'm not going to survive.
Find me something that matters. Speaking of matters, speaking of USC, they've got Iowa at home next week, and you look at the slate for Week 12, Paul. This thing is loaded. What do you have your eyes on?
Yeah, I mean, in the SEC, it's pretty self-explanatory. Two of the biggest games of the year, and I think that's where my conversation will be this week. And it's really I'll come back to it. I'll circle back to survival because Oklahoma, had its worst loss of the year and its biggest win back to back. And if they could roll into Tuscaloosa, that would really prevail, give them a shot at the playoffs and do a lot of good for Brent Venables, who's kind of been living in and out of the hot seat for the last couple of years. Talk about another opening that could happen.
And the one. Ooh, I'm not going to take that bait because we're getting up here. I'll tell you the one game, the one team no one is talking about, and we'll leave you with this, Paul. There is one team that could control the entire domino effect of the college football playoff that not one person has uttered this team. The Pitt Panthers.
Oh yeah.
Pitt is a team that I'm telling you. They have the keys to the rest of the season. Well, Matt, why is that? It's Pitt. Well, number one, they've got Notre Dame coming to their yard this weekend. And Pitt, since they made this quarterback switch to Heinzel, the true freshman, if they get Notre Dame this weekend, Notre Dame, in all likelihood, at 9-3, they're not going to get in. So they control Notre Dame's playoff fate. Then they have Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech. They could screw that up for the Ramblin' Wreck. And then they have Miami. The final 3 weeks of their season, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Miami. And when you look at the ACC standings, Pitt's got 5-1 in conference. Georgia Tech's got 5-1 in conference. Virginia has 5-1 in conference. So they could screw the whole damn thing up and backdoor their way in because no one's talking about him. That 3-game slate, Paul, to me is the biggest and most important in the country.
Yeah, no, and I mean the ACC's been a lot of fun to watch. I mean, what was it, 6-7 weeks ago that they had so many teams alive? I mean, that is true, and I'm glad to hear that because I think Pitt has always been one of those stories in college football when that they are always on that line. But the question I have is, can they pull this off?
Yeah,
it would be nice to get Notre Dame out of the conversation. I'm a little bit weary of the Notre Dame conversation this week.
And when chosen correctly, they're the best uniforms in college football to the Pitt Panthers. And here's one with the ACC, Paul. Here's all you need to know about the league this year. A team that lost to UConn yesterday. Can still play for the conference championship. Duke is 5-4 overall after losing to UConn, but they're 4-1 in league. It's just been one of those years, and we can't wait to drive it home with you. Paul Finebaum, Matt Barrie, Sunday after week 11. Look forward to week 12, friends, because the schedule is loaded. We'll be with you each and every morning here on the Matt Barrie Show, presented by Allstate.
You want this, you got that. No way, watch them walk right past you.